This episode of Harvey Brownstone Interviews is brought to you by the Harvey Brownstone Talk Show Blend Coffee, available at hollywoodblends.com. Everyone's saying it's the best coffee they've ever tasted. Why not give it a try and see for yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Harvey Brownstone, and today's guest is a wonderful actor with whom the whole world fell in love when he was only 5 years old, playing Fess Parker's son, Israel Boone, on the hugely popular and iconic TV show, The Daniel Boone Show, which ran for 6 seasons and had an audience of over 30 million viewers. But beyond that unforgettable role, our guest has had a long and diversified career appearing in movies like Heroes Island, Son of Flubber, The Good Guys and the Bad Guys, High Raiders, Firecracker, Malibu Express, Dark Future, Stargames, The Contested Planes, Wild Faith, The Marshal, for which he won several prestigious film festival awards for Best Supporting Actor, and his latest feature film Was Once a Hero, which has also won a whole slew of film festival awards. And on television, he's appeared in dozens of classic shows, including Mr. Ed, Wagon Train, Route 66, The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, The Big Valley, Hawaii Five-0, Magnum P.I., Knots Landing, Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, Mike Hammer, Beverly Hills 90210, and many more. And for all you soap opera fans, in the mid-'80s, our guest played the evil Ian Griffith on Days of Our Lives. He also starred in a number of TV movies and miniseries, including Recipe for Disaster, The Last Laugh, Texas Rising, Home on the Range, and Christmas Wishes and Mistletoe Kisses, to name just a few. In 2018, our guest released a wonderful book entitled Growing Up Israel, My Life in Pictures, which documents his early years in show business, his love of acting, and mostly what it was like being part of the great legacy of Daniel Boone on television. I'm delighted to welcome Darby Hinton to our show. Darby, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. And as always, you have done your homework. I don't remember a few of those. But then again, that was the 70s.
Oh, really? I would like to have known you in the 70s.
You know, it's so funny. I was just listening. I can't remember who it was I was listening to on the radio or something. And they talked about if you had a time machine and could go back, what era would you go back to? And of course, I always thought, knights and this. And the guy answered the 70s in Hollywood. And he gave all the reasons why. And I'm like, that's right. I did live that. I did have fun.
Well, Darby, I want to start by paying tribute to your dear father, the great actor Ed Hinton, who died tragically in a plane crash when you were only 1 year old. Do you feel close to him when you see his movies?
It's so funny because of the internet, because I have some wonderful darlings out there that have found things that are coming back that I've never seen. I I do remember, I think maybe this made it to the 80s, but I remember like kind of falling asleep with a young lady and the television came on and it was a late night show and everything. And I was looking, I was going, I know that actor. Where do I know that actor from? And the lady next to me, I think that's your dad. So yeah, a lot of his things I haven't had the chance to see until now. A wonderful friend, Rob Word, put together a great tribute to those that died too young in the Western genre. And he found footage that I hadn't seen. That was really a great thing. That brought me to tears. My sisters were a wreck when they saw it.
Well, Rob Word was on our show. He's a wonderful guy. And I have to say, your dad was in movies like Samson and Delilah, River of No Return, Escape from Red Rock. He played Special Agent Henderson in the TV show I Led Three Lives. He was really a great actor. And you've said many times that growing up without a father made your relationship with Fess Parker a very special and close one. Were you close with his wife and kids as well?
Oh, with Marcy, Ashley, and Eli, I still consider Eli, my brother. Ashley, my adopted sister. Marcy, yes. I mean, right up to the end. Oh, I can tell you the story, but it might sound a little woo-woo. I woke up one morning, and I just turned to my wife and I said, "You know what? It's Marcy's birthday. I have to go up and wish her happy birthday." And she's like, are they expecting you?" I said, "No, but I knew I had this feeling I had to go up and I had to see Marcy and I had to see Fess. And I'd been up to see Fess a few times in the hospital and times when he was going through stuff. But I'm like, but I gotta go. And I even had stuff to do that day. And she's like, "Okay, if you have to, you have to." And I was taking that beautiful, and anybody knows it, you go up the 101 and you come out around the corner and there's the Pacific Ocean with Catalina and Anacapa, and it's gorgeous. And right when I hit there, the phone rang. And I'm like, "Hello?" And it's Ashley, Fess's daughter. She goes, "Darby, I just want you to hear it from me before you hear it on the radio or anything, but Fess just passed." And I'm like, "Well, I happen to be heading up there anyway. Would you mind if I stop by?" And stuff. She goes, "Oh no, it's just family. Yes, please come," and stuff. And I spent the day up there with them. And a lot of people have said, "Oh, isn't that tragic that Fess died on Marcy's birthday?" No, that was Fess. He was there. She came in the morning. He was able to say, "I love you." And then he knew the rest of that day she would be surrounded by family and friends because it was her birthday. So he just slipped away that day and obviously came to me in the nighttime and goes, "No, you have to be up there too. You go up there."
Yeah, that's not woo woo. That's love. That's karma. That's what you call a strong, strong bond. And Fess Parker was not just a great actor. He was a very astute businessman with a vineyard and a hotel. At one point, wasn't he considering going into politics?
Yes, yes. And he asked me, and I said, "You're crazy. Fess, you're too nice. You can't be in politics." Yeah, he thought about it for a little while.
I read that your family history on your father's side actually intersects with the real Daniel Boone. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, I had a fan while I was doing the show that wrote to me and said, "Is your last name really Hinton? If it is, you might be related to Daniel Boone and all that." And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. And then we went and told the studio, and of course, their press got on it and went back. And yeah, my lineage goes right through Daniel Boone. My dad, directed by Mickey Rooney, did one of the pilots for one of the original Daniel Boone shows that really didn't go anywhere. It was Touch Connors, Mike Connors. Mom always said people don't like him calling Touch, but Mike Connors. And so it's really interesting how Daniel Boone has weaved in and out of my life.
Oh, yeah, very much so. Now, your first on screen appearance was at the age of 6 months in the arms of Jane Mansfield in an episode of Playhouse 90. Was your dad in that episode as well?
No, 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 no. That's the whole reason it happened. Um, I have two older sisters, 3 years and then 6 years older than me, and they started when they were young doing commercials and stuff. I mean, it was industry family. And they used to ask my dad as soon as I was born, "Oh, what about your son? Are you going to get him in the business? Is he?" "Oh, I don't know. The kid's a bum. He's 2 months old, hasn't earned a dime." "Oh, he's 3 months old, hasn't earned a dime. Oh my, what am I going to do with that kid? He's 5 months old, hasn't earned." My mom hated that joke. So she managed to get me on Playhouse 90. Didn't tell him, made him watch it. And then he watched the whole thing, and at the end of it, just turned to go, "Marilyn, you sure know how to ruin a good joke."
Good for your mom. You know, the thing about the Daniel Boone show that always impressed me was that although it was a great family show, you dealt with important social issues like racism and slavery and the dignity of the Native American people. You must be very proud of that, Darby.
I certainly am. And of course, I didn't have anything to do with it except for being in it at the time. But we had a young producer come on. It was first Barney Rosenzweig. Aaron Rosenzweig was on it first. But anyway, he came on, young kid. People were like, "Oh, who is this guy?" But between him and Fess, yeah, they managed to tackle a lot of those topics, but they didn't hit you over the head with it. It wasn't like, it was there. The whole family could watch, they could talk about it later. When Rosie Greer came on, he was the first actor of color to be signed to a series. And yes, I got to spend a lot of time, fortunately, back in North Carolina at Cherokee reservations with the Indians. Yes, I am proud of that. And the fact that over 50 years later, it's still popular. I still have people coming up and thanking me that this is something they can sit down and watch with their kids.
I know there's lots of people out there who criticize the Daniel Boone Show for not being accurate about history, but the fact is that without the TV show, the public would likely have never had any interest in Daniel Boone, don't you think?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, one of the reasons Daniel Boone is the legend of Daniel Boone is he was one of the first ones to be on you can't call it a comic book or anything, but they had those little nickel, I think they called him nickel something, but the adventures, and I think it was even Captain Boone back then. But these little dime novels, that was it, became very popular and then even overseas. But yes, where Daniel Boone the real Daniel Boone never wore a coonskin cap. He thought that was like, more for the lower class or whatever, peasant. But then they made Davy Crockett wear one to be more like Daniel Boone. So yeah, the whole history there is fascinating.
Well, the show made people interested in history. Daniel Boone was certainly the first American living legend. In the original plot for Daniel Boone, there were three children, and you played Nathan and someone else played Israel. How did they go from three kids to two?
I actually got this show totally by accident, since we're already on a spiritual level with you. My dad's died. My mom's a single mom bringing up three kids. Hollywood, what do you do? Everything. She decided to keep me in acting because there was a lot of good, male influence around and stuff. And so one morning, I come in, she comes into the bedroom and she's holding up a lederhosen with knee-high socks and throws it on the bed. Here, quick, get in this. We got to get down. They want to see you at Fox. They're casting the youngest, Von Trapp, for Sound of Music. I'm like, okay. Throw all that in, driving all the way down from the top of Bel Air down to Pico and the 20th Century Fox. She has me singing Edelweiss and Doe Deer and all that. I love my mom. She was a great mom, not a good businesswoman, great mom, but always late, late to everything, even her own funeral, but that's another story. She goes through the gates, pulls me up in front of that three-story casting building there at Fox, goes, run in there. I'll park the car and come in and get you, but just quick, go in. Okay. I ran in. I saw a line of kids. I got in the line of kids. I'm standing there. I see the secretary kind of go and look at me in my lederhosen and stuff. I go, come here. Yeah, what's your name? Darby Hinton. She goes, yeah, wait right here. And as soon as the other kid came out, she grabbed me ahead of everybody and took me in, I'm sure is a big joke. And I go in and there's the big Hollywood desk, all these people sitting around it, and this very tall guy there and stuff. And they come in and they all like start cracking a little bit. And the tall guy kind of calms them down. Yeah, we know what's your name and stuff. And I had just done a wagon train. And halfway through it, I lost my front tooth because that's that age. So the studio had to give me a flapper to put in so it looked like I still had my tooth so they could keep shooting with it and stuff. So anyway, one of the things I said to him, I said, well, look, by the way, you can have me this way. And I went underneath the table, pulled out my tooth, came out, smiled, or you can have me this way without the tooth. They all cracked up. I was great. I got along with the big guy, like I say, and stuff. And I walk out and I go, and there's my mom running up and down the hall. Darby, where are you? Where have you been? They're waiting for you. I can't believe you did this. I don't know, Mom, but whatever's in there, I just got it. And they sent me to wardrobe. And that was the casting for Israel Boone. And they cast a young boy as Israel Boone and then quickly wrote in Nathan Boone for me. And I started. My mom was a little hesitant because back then you either did TV or you did movies. And of course, she saw me doing movies, but she loved Fess too and said, this would probably be a good influence for him. And that's how I did the show. And then shooting the pilot, like I say, these strong male influences I was drawn to. And we had George Marshall directing the pilot, who was one of the old great directors who used to use that cone, nothing, no batteries, but just a cone to yell at the crew and tell people where to go. And I would sit on his lap while he was yelling at people. I loved it. He wrote a scene in for me when the Indians are attacking the fort. A flaming arrow goes into the powder keg where all the women are reloading and trying to get all the ammo together. I run out from beneath the wagon, take the arrow out, stomp on it, throw it away, run back with the kids. Ma comes running over. Oh, Nathan. Oh, Ma. And that was it. It goes to the dailies. And back then, for your younger crowd, dailies is because we printed everything. And the next day, you had to make sure it actually made it to film. I guess they saw it and said, you know, if that little kid can do all this, why do we need the big kid? And the next day, my name was changed to Israel. And the only thing we had to reshoot is, you know, her coming over and going, you know, ah, Israel. And that's why it's funny. If you look at the pilot, in the very beginning, the two kids run out. And the last scene, when Daniel walks away with the fort behind him and everything, there's the whole Boone family. And on either end are two young boys.
What an amazing story. And the fact that destiny has played such a role in your life.
Oh,
Now, I have to say, in the first few seasons of the show, Darby, Israel's vocabulary was very poor and he had poor grammar. But then in the last few seasons, your vocabulary, your grammar was impeccable. Why did they make that change?
well, I don't need no schooling. I mean, you know, to speak properly. We had so many teachers writing in, Israel can't talk like this. Our kids want to talk like Israel and stuff. Also, you have to remember my hair was longer than the Beatles. And you know how much trouble the Beatles got in for having that long hair. So I had the long hair, the language. Once on the show, they did try, they had a scene where they put a bowl over my head and Fess started, you know, cutting around, giving me the bowl cut. Well, no one told my mom they were going to do this. And she happened to wander on the set right when he started to go like this. There was a little bit of an explosion. So they didn't try that one again. But yeah, because I got away with the long hair for that long, but the language I had to clean up so that I wasn't a bad influence on. Well, we had 30 million viewers, however many of those were the kids.
So even as a little kid, you were a role model. Imagine that. So when you watch an episode of the Daniel Boone Show nowadays, what runs through your mind?
First, my wife would walk in, what are you doing? What is fun, because especially when we had lockdown, I started showing some of the old ones and bringing some of the people that were involved in those shows on and talking about it. It was fun. And it's just amazing the people I got to work with, because everybody wanted to be on Fess's show. And also the athletes, because Fess was very tall, but he didn't want to seem like he was that tall. So, you know, we had a lot of athletes on there, wonderful stars. I remember when it dawned on me, I'm like, oh, Bewitched's husband was my school teacher. Oh, you know, or Burgess Meredith or Vincent Price. Ooh, when he came on.
Well, a few years ago, you returned to the role of Israel in an episode of TV Therapy. What was that like?
I forgot all about that. Harvey, you do come prepared. I gotta say that. I'm just I forgot all look it. It's all fun. I'm a storyteller. That's what I am. I love to tell stories. If I can make people laugh and feel good, so much the better. And that was one of the things I read it and I got a good laugh out of it. So I said, of course I'll do it.
I thought it was delightful. And before you were in Daniel Boone, you appeared in an episode of The Big Valley starring the legendary Barbara Stanwyck, and Richard Dreyfuss played your big brother. Do you have memories from that experience?
Yes. First of all, and I did just get to see that again. And I do remember sitting at the table and Linda Evans was right next to me, a young, gorgeous Linda Evans. And that made an impression. Of course,
Even at that age?
oh, yes.
Because we had Linda Evans on our show last year, and she's still gorgeous inside and out.
And so nice. I know. Yes, even at that age, that was very nice. And Barbara Stanwyck, I have pictures of me getting a kiss from her. And then, you go back and you watch Double Indemnity or something, you're like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I've been fortunate to be around a lot of beautiful women, and some of them they even had to pay to kiss and be nice to me.
And what was Richard Dreyfuss like back then?
Richard was a fun young New York actor, just came out eager to do anything. We have this scene where you can, you have to drive this horse in a buggy, or, are you okay? Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. No problem. Richard, he didn't know which end of the horse to feed, to tell you the truth. And I just remember we were in that buggy and we had a scene where he was, supposed to like, okay, giddy up and we're just going to go a little bit and stop here. And they said action, and he did the only thing that he's seen in the movies. Yeah. Oh, the horse took off, the buggy took off, everybody went. Oh, it's fun. I get to hold that over Ricky's head today. But we survived.
We've had a lot of former child stars on our show, like Billy Mooney, Angela Cartwright, Butch Patrick, Todd Bridges, Christopher Atkins, Paul Peterson, so many. And some of them
You
told
just
me,
mentioned some of my favorite people. Go
yeah,
ahead.
they're wonderful people. And some of them told me that they felt the public resented them for growing up. Did you ever feel that way, Darby?
No, I mean, everybody goes through the awkward stage and stuff. I kept trying to grow up. I think that's why I started growing facial hair at a young age. No, I didn't have that one.
Well, that's good. After Daniel Boone ended, you took some roles that were the polar opposite of your All American image. You played a drug user on The Bold Ones, The New Doctors. You played a troubled youth on Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law. You even played a drug dealer on Hawaii Five-O. How difficult was it for you to get away from your image as the All American boy?
Well, that was obviously me trying to do that. And having fun too. That one, the Owen Marshall you talked about, where I got to pop the pills and throw them all around. I tried to break up with the Israel image. I tried to do things. I even sent myself to school to, finish off high school up in the Swiss Alps, because I thought, okay, I'm going to go someplace where they don't know Israel. I can just be a normal kid, no preconceived notions, just see what it is to be a regular kid. Unfortunately, I did 20 hours of planes, trains, and automobiles to get to that school. I could pull up in the taxi at the big gate. I get out behind, open the trunk, grab my suitcase, and before it hits the ground, this girl walks by me and goes, Daniel Boone was a man. So at that point, I said, you know what? Israel is a part of me. I am grateful for the doors he opened and the fun I had and the relationships with people like Fess Parker, Ed Ames, Rosie Greer, even Jimmy Dean. That was a lot of fun. And so I accepted it. I guess it's like the singers that have that one song that, everybody asks them to play.
Well, yeah, I mean, we grew up with you. In 1985, you made a really fun movie called Malibu Express, which became a cult classic. You played a sexy, hunky private investigator, kind of like Tom Selleck. Were you comfortable being a sex symbol?
I can say that was a lot of fun, that film. Good old Andy Sedaris. Yeah, I mean, I got the script and it was, driving a DeLorean, shooting a gun. They tried to give me a little gun. I'm like, no, no, big gun, especially because he couldn't shoot straight. And it was interesting. And then while we were shooting it, we would shoot it one way. Okay, that's good. And then Andy would say, okay, now this is the European version. And it would get a little more risque. And, I came to find out that it was all the European version. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And a lot of people really enjoyed it. Like I said, if I could make them laugh and have a good time.
But it didn't go to your head that you suddenly became this sexy movie star?
There's somebody showed me, I think it was 16 or Fab, the old target, where I was Adonis of the month. Do you know what it's like? And the shirt's off and oh, Adonis of the month. Do you know what it's like to go back to junior high school being called Adonis of the month? I mean, that school is hard enough at that time. And Billy Mooney, who you know is a great friend. Actually, I saw your thing. We just reconnected by phone, and we're going to go out and grab a drink. You know, I went to school when we weren't filming on the separate studio lot, which was out at Western Avenue. They filmed at the main 20th Century Fox on Pico, and they had a one big schoolhouse. And if you weren't working on the set, or if I wasn't working on location, we'd all be in the same schoolhouse with our separate teachers. But so we all grew up, went to school together and stuff. And Billy was the first one because his show got canceled first. And he came back and he really wanted to try to finish school there and everything. And I'm Billy, what are you talking about? You get to go out, you know, all those playgrounds we see when they're driving us to locations, kids playing basketball. You get to do all that now. Isn't that going to be fun? I go, no, no, Darby. Oh, I said, you don't know. Once you get out there, it's like the Wild West. And you're the fastest gun, and everybody wants to shoot you down. Oh, come on, Billy. Yeah, unfortunately, he was very right on. I got my nose broken a few times first few months of school. You know, I didn't have a dad. I didn't have older brothers. You know, I grew up on a set. The teachers loved me because I would listen to adults do what they say. So I didn't know how to fight back. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. And that's why I got picked on even more until I got a point where I did stand up. But, you know, even that led to wonderful things. I'm like, now, wait a minute. When I was, you know, on the Pico lot, not working, I used to like to go visit other sound stages he was going on. And there was this very cool show, and I would go watch it. And there would be this guy that could fight so fast, and the director would tell him to slow it down. He's like, no, I don't slow down. You slow down your camera. And it was Bruce Lee when he was Kato on the Green Hornet. And I would sit there and go, hmm. And it led me to a life of learning martial arts and practicing martial arts, going to Hong Kong, seeing where he studied, learning from, you know, William Chung, the world's grand master in Wing Chun and stuff. So, you know, even that, it toughened me up a little bit, but it sure led me in the right direction as far as martial arts and sports and stuff.
Oh, yeah, it sure did. In the TV miniseries Texas Rising, you played David Burnett, the first president of Texas. How did you prepare for that role?
I had just come back from somewhere. I don't know. I'd been overseas or something, and I hadn't worked in a while. So I'm like, oh, and this is a great part. They're flying me down first class. They had, because, you know, it was a very big budget production. And I said, okay. I kind of liked Laurence Olivier, who they say could be behind the curtain joking with the, you know, the crew. And then as soon as the curtain came out, could get into that scene. But I grew up with a godfather, might have heard of him, Charlton Heston. And he had a totally different way of acting and being that role. He would keep that role. Lydia, his wife, would say, do you know what it's like living with Moses? So I said, okay, this time, that's what I'm going to do. And the whole plane down there, I'm like, and Burnett and Bill Paxton's role, who was Houston, you know, they were bitter enemies and fought and all this. Okay, I'm just going to be that way. I'm going to be in that mode, the whole thing. Long story short, get to location, get there. We do the wardrobe. They take in Polaroids. I can tell you how long ago that was. Polaroids, and they're running it to the set to the director to okay it. I'm like, I got nothing to do. I'd love to go to the set. Oh, you should. Yeah, okay, I'll go to the set. I go to the set. It's down in a beautiful ravine. There's the mist machine going on. There's the whole thing, and there's Bill, and I'm kind of walking on the outskirts like this. And you know, I'd seen Bill once 3 years earlier in an elevator for 4 floors, said hi. They yell cut. He turns around and looks at us. Darby, how you? Welcome to the set. He walks over to me, bottle in one hand, wearing nothing but blue paint. I'm like, hi, Bill. He goes, yeah, how you doing? Well, he goes, yeah, I know. You know, they can't show anything, but we got to keep it realistic, right? And I'm like, yeah, right. And I'm eye contact. Yes, Bill, you're right. You're right. He goes, yeah. You know, I even had the makeup woman get a little spirit gum because, of course, you know, they weren't circumcised back then. And I'm, well, now you got to look, right? Oh, yeah, Bill, that's.
You have really had some amazing experiences.
But God, that's his commitment. That was it. My commitment was blown. I mean, I was we were friends and I was laughing and joking. I can't do it the Heston way. And it's so sad that he left us early too.
Oh, yeah, he was an amazing guy. Now, you've been very active in a number of organizations that provide support and advocacy for child performers. You were on the SAG-AFTRA Young Performers Committee. You're on the advisory committee for the Looking Ahead Foundation, which
Still am.
operates,
Still am.
yeah, operates through the Actors Fund. And you're a longtime member of the organization founded by Paul Peterson, A Minor Consideration. I'm sure you're aware, Darby, that most child actors now are homeschooled, so they get almost no exposure to the real world. Don't you think that's kind of unfortunate?
That's what Looking Ahead is all about. That is creating a community for these young performers. You mentioned the homeschooling, so they don't get any social interaction there. When I was young and growing up, if you saw another kid in the interview, back before everything was Zoomed, when you went in for an interview and you saw their kids, oh, that's your competition. So you didn't become good friends with them. Looking ahead is all about looking ahead. Acting's great, it's good, but what are you going to do next? And and we get to do things from bowling and paintballing, painting park benches, to going to SAG retirement home. And that's exactly what you're talking about. We build a community and we have psychologists on there to help guide people's career if they're feeling the pressure right now with what's going on. We just had a big committee meeting, and there are a lot of young actors that are very worried right now with what's going on. And so we can give them counseling. It's all free. It used to be the old Actors Fund, and now it's the entertainment community, because they do more than just actors. It's anybody in the entertainment. And yes, Paul was very instrumental in starting this Looking Ahead. And he brought me in from the very first meeting, and that was 23 years ago. And now we have divisions in New York, Atlanta, and all over. It's really good.
What's the key message you try to convey when you're talking to a child star?
Have fun. I mean, it's work. It's a crazy business, a crazy business. And my whole life I've had people, how do I get my kid into the business? How did you? And it's not, if you're going in the business to make money, if you're going in the business to chase fame, it's got to be because it's something inside you that this is what you do. Like I said, I'm a storyteller. If I didn't do this, I'd be out there telling stories somewhere. And it's just that drive, because you are going to face a ton of rejection. You are going to face disappointments. I mean, I've seen you bring some of my friends to tears because you do such great background checks. You bring up projects that they might have been working on for 4 or 5 months and sweat, and nobody knows about it. And you recognize it, and it's a little validation.
Well, that's why I do the show. I love to do that. Now, you've spoken publicly about how important your mother was in keeping you grounded as a kid, not letting you think that you were more special than anyone else. Is your mom the reason you were able to avoid a lot of the pitfalls that other child stars fell into?
I would say, from all my experience, a huge amount of it is the parenting. If you're pushing your kid into the business and you're going to make them a star because that was something you wanted to do in your dream and you didn't get to do, that never ends well. But yes, I mean, I look at the Jodie Fosters, I look at the Brooke Shields, I look at the you know, Ron Howard. I loved Ron. His dad Rance, and of course, both those boys. Yeah, it's the parenting. Like Rance was. It's a business. I tried to give him an award for parenting when we were doing something with Looking Ahead, and he's like, "Oh no, Dar, I don't need an award." I'm like, "Yeah, you're a great example of somebody that nourishes, puts it, takes some money and puts it aside for the kids. That's a novel concept."
So it's
So,
really about the parenting. Well, what do you think is the healthiest way for a celebrity to handle that intoxicating experience of being famous?
and I believe that's a lot of the ones that you hear, the tragic stories that you hear. Because yes, you get that fame. When you're on a series, everybody wants to be your friend. You're getting the calls, you're getting the can you do that? Yeah. Series is over very quickly. Nobody's returning the calls. People don't know. It's what got me into doing this with Paul Peterson in the first place. Because I never liked doing the where are they now and looking back and all that, because I was always focusing on the career ahead and going forward. But there was a show, Nanny and the Professor, that starred a young Kim Richards, who did a lot of great Disney things and all that. People know her now more for Housewives of Beverly Hills. But there was a young actor in there that played her brother that I think it was his young 30s. He went and stuff. But he went back to his school fence, took off his belt, and hung himself and had a note. What happened? Everybody loved me. Everybody wanted to be my friends. Now nobody. And that was the first thing that opened up my eyes and like, okay, let's see what we can do to try to avoid that.
Well, that's such a tragic story. The one thing I've learned interviewing celebrities is that whatever it was inside them that drove them to want to be famous and to be loved by the public, when they got it, it wasn't what they thought it would be. It didn't heal whatever it was that they thought they needed healing from. What do you make of that?
They were still there. My first big aha moment like that was there was a show called Alias Smith and Jones with Ben Murphy, who was dating my sister. But it was a great show. It was a Western, the two, and it was one of the top 10 shows, very popular. And his name is escaping me. I'm not great with names. But the other co-star in that, I believe it was Christmas Eve. I know it was right around Christmas. I think it was even Christmas Eve or morning. He went under the Christmas tree, put a gun, and blew his brains out. I'm like, wait a minute, he got the series. And it was the first time I said, well, maybe there's more to it than that. So yeah, like I said, I think that's part of the reason the ones go back. That fame can really pump you up. It feels great. It's like the best narcotic you can get, right? And then all of a sudden they take that away. Well, you can't go to the local pusher and get it back. You can't even buy it back. And sometimes people do absolutely crazy things to get the attention, and that's their way of getting it back. Because bad news always, if it bleeds, it leads.
Well, one of the things about you that really impresses me is that over the years, you've studied with some of the master teachers in the world of spirituality and human nature, like Wayne Dyer, Julia Cameron, Brian Tracy, and others. And at one point, you were a master trainer with Tony Robbins. What do you think you were searching for, Darby?
I've always been, my mother was very kind of spiritual like that. It'd be very hard to put her in a box. Christian Science is the closest you could get, but she had me meditating, back then. And I'm an actor. I study life. I can sit in a park and observe people and take notes. How they act, how do they do it? And it was fascinating. It was through my sister I got to meet Tony Robbins, because she worked with him. Tony and I became fast friends. Like you say, I studied with him about 9 years, going back and forward. And Wayne Dyer, I mean, I study people. Why do we do what we do? Which is one of the things Tony was his main focus. And I I don't know what else to say about it. It helps a lot, that's for sure. And it's great. Through some of Tony's techniques, I got to when we were at one retreat, there was a young boy that, his roommate finally said, you got to do something about his water phobia, because he hasn't taken a bath the whole week we've been here. And this is Hawaii, where you can get kind of hot and sticky. And, his story was his mom held him down in the bathtub at one point to try to do away with him. So he didn't like water. And to be able to work with him and then finally take him in my arms and then go into the water. And then all of a sudden he enjoyed it, because I love the water. I mean, to me, scuba diving, that's where this Leo cools down, is in the water. And to see that come back to him, where he could finally accept it again and everything, is a wonderful, wonderful thing. So yeah, that's why I like doing that stuff.
Well, another thing about you that I've always admired over the years, you've done a lot of personal appearances. You've been very accessible to your fans. How does it feel when you get three generations of fans coming up to you and telling you how much you and the Daniel Boone Show meant to them?
It's a wonderful feeling. I didn't do, like I said, the Where They Nows or the autograph shows. I didn't do a lot of them. I went back and I did one in North Carolina, which happens to be where my son moved to, and met a guy named Dan Haggerty, who actually I did a little show with him in the 70s, but we never really talked or communicated then. But anyway, we had so much fun together. And you're right, to sit there and actually get to meet and connect and hear the stories of what you meant to people. And it's a great feeling. I have a great little group called my Darby's Darlings and Dudes, and we get to go a lot of fun places. My only rule for staying in that, or it's on a Facebook thing, is everything has to be stated in the positive.
Well, you know, today's heroes on TV and in the movies are all people with flaws, but Daniel Boone was a real hero who stood for everything good. And people seem to be missing that right now, don't you think?
I laugh. Absolutely. I mean, that was the great thing about the old Roy Rogers and Gene Autry, and the Roy Rogers code of conduct, what it meant to be a real cowboy and, honor flag, honor country, parents. Yeah, we somehow got into this bad boy thing, which is along the lines of if it bleeds, it leads. And everybody had to have some flaw. Nobody could be totally upright. And
Well,
that's a
speaking of
shame.
heroes, your latest movie was Once a Hero, is winning awards left and right. You must be thrilled to be part of that project.
It was fun, nice to just be nominated. It was very nice to take Best Actor for that. Yes, and that was a really challenging role. So I read the script. I go, no, but I know somebody would be great for this. Buck Taylor. I mean, he wonderful actor, great guy to work with. Buck would be great. Call up Buck. Buck's like, well, I'm really sorry. I'm doing Yellowstone right now, and I never know when they're going to call me, and I can't really commit to a movie. So they came back to me. He can't do it. Will you do it? And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll do it. 10 days later, less than 2 weeks later, Buck calls me up. Well, they just killed me on Yellowstone. Like, oh, well, sorry, we're doing this. But it was such, the writer's wonderful. I'd worked with him before, Dan, and it was a tribute actually to our friend Johnny Crawford, who did the other one that Dan Searles wrote was Bill Tillman and the Outlaws, which you have as the Marshal and stuff because the distributor thought the title was too long. Anyway, Johnny was just really getting into his Alzheimer's at that point. And because of that, we filmed early. We actually shot his part about almost a year before we started principal shooting. Flew him out to Virginia where it was going to be filmed. And driving from the airport, the director drove from the airport to where he was staying. And the director's going, I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't, he's not going to be able to work with it or anything. Get to the set the next day, put him on a horse. And as soon as he got on the horse, it's like, yeah, I'm riding it around. And he knew, and he just totally came back. So in the scene, he was supposed to ride in, get off the horse, and give his big speech. And the director's like, no, stay on the horse, do it up there. But what I'm saying is, and I watched right to the very end. He went, the beloved Marcy Parker you talk about. I would go up and visit her. There's so many people that are touched with Alzheimer's and dementia now that's one of the things I was really worried about was to portray it because I don't want to go overboard and have anybody think I'm making fun of him or underplay it, and then you throw in also he's got combat fatigue and PTS. But it's even nicer than that little award is. We had the charity screening of it at a wonderful place called Healing Stride Virginia Style, which is an organization that take veterans with post-traumatic syndrome and they teach them how to take care of horses and do that. And in turn, they teach children with learning differences how to ride and all. So it's a great organization. we have the screening there, and afterwards, I had these three guys. This one guy come up with three behind him, and he came up and he just thought, Mr. Hinton, I got to thank you for showing people what we have to go through and what we have to deal with, and just bringing that reality to life. Thank you so much. And I was like, I mean, that's better than any little award or anything else you can get. If it touches people, to a storyteller, that's the number one thing, and brings things to light.
Well, I hope everybody watches that movie, Was Once a Hero, starring Darby Hinton. It's a really beautiful movie, winning awards everywhere. I got to tell you, Darby, it's been such a pleasure meeting you. You've been a pleasure to correspond with in emails. You were going to do our show earlier, but then the fires happened in Los Angeles. You've been such a joy to get to know, and I really feel like I made a new friend today, and I thank you so much for doing our show.
You absolutely have made a good friend. You're ever anywhere in the area, give me a call. Love to sit down and talk with you in person.
I very much look forward to it. Our guest has been the iconic actor Darby Hinton, whose book, Growing Up Israel, My Life in Pictures, is available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. To learn more about Darby Hinton and to buy his merchandise and find out about his personal appearance schedule, please visit his official website, darbyhinton.com. My name is Harvey Brownstone. Thank you all for joining us. See you next time. Thank you to my producers, Steve Silver, my managers, Rick Marcelli and Robin Bragg Marcelli of the Marcelli Company in Hollywood, my director of programming, Robert Monaghan, my editor, Isaiah Sharalampidis, and my entire team at the XPTV1 network in the UK.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all the great interviews on the Harvey Brownstone Interviews YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when new videos are posted.